when I said I left prison and I vowed
Yeah.
I would never return. Well,
Yeah.
God had other plans because here I go. And I go out and you realize like you have this box with all your possessions and you're just looking around like, what next? And so it was a broken thing from the gate. And so I recognized the brokenness of it, how broken it was. And I just again, caring about people, all I could think about was next week there's going to be another van. You're from prison or you're homeless, and that's the same thing. They came from prison. They're homeless. They have nowhere to go.
Thank you. So nice to see everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Well, most people who spend time in prison come home only to find that there's no shortage of obstacles that are in their way. Like to start with, the initial disorientation. Roads have changed, people have changed, sounds have changed, everything's changed. So there's that issue right off the bat. You have housing, food, employment, transportation, and then there's the parole terms and conditions, of which there are literally thousands. Only about 40% of the people that are in county jails are actually there for parole violations because there are just so many ways that you can get tripped up, even if you didn't mean to violate a term. So survival is a job in itself. And tonight we are talking to Jacquin Webb, who also struggled when he was released after 20 years. And he says that life on the outside was so overwhelming that he didn't know where to start. Well, once he found his bearings, he did something. He started a program to help others coming out so that no one would have to endure the pre-release and post-release process alone. And as I've found out, Joaquin is a very busy guy because his work now is very valuable and needed. And so now he knows a little bit about what it's like to have to deal with success. So that's a whole different issue. And I just wanted to say it's really a privilege here to get to meet with you and to talk with you. So thank you, Joaquin, so much for joining us.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, well, let's just kind of start really at the beginning, which is where we need to start. And who were you before incarceration? And maybe just give us a little bit of a backstory, like where did you grow up and what was your early life like?
So I grew up with a single mother. I was the oldest of three boys. We pretty much lived from paycheck to paycheck. My mother worked one job and it was again paycheck to paycheck. And she showed us a lot of love though. It wasn't so at least it wasn't I didn't see a difference or that we were not doing well until obviously I became an adult and realized like, oh, that wasn't normal, or these were not normal circumstances, or maybe we didn't have as much as I thought we did. So early on, those are the things that um, kind of my backstory as far as how I grew up. Um, excuse me. There was as an adult, I don't. I had these, I was really big into track and field and soccer. And so I had opportunities, many, and I was pretty good at them. I didn't go to the next level as far as after high school for either. But I had I think I had a pretty quick temper, angry, and I didn't really uh, have a lot of care for other people. It was more of it was a very selfish approach to life in general.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Did you have role models when you were growing up?
Um, yeah, I did have a few along the way. It was pretty hit and miss. There was a couple of uncles who I didn't see often as a kid, but then also there was the high school counselor. There was the coaches that I had. There was the
Hmm.
um, um, again at my mom's church. There was a pastor who I really liked. So that was a big thing. That those are the ones that stick out immediately.
Speaking of soccer, the U.S. won the other night.
Of course I do. Of course.
I don't want to throw us off course. I just think I'm happy. I don't know. Hopefully everybody else is happy.
I hope so
Well,
too.
what was the mindset in the situation that got you into trouble with the law and eventually landed you in prison?
Well, the mindset was again, the selfish 28-year-old who didn't have a lot of care for a lot of things. I was living with someone who I was engaged to, but and I just wasn't partaking in the family, being a family. I kind of still approach things as a selfish person, just thinking about myself. I wasn't by then. I wasn't a person who argued. I just kind of walked away from conflict instead of facing it head on or to have the communication. It was more of a just the walk away, and I don't want to deal with that, or I don't want to hear that kind of mentality.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Sounds like me.
Mm.
I kind of understand the issue of a little bit angry. So, what was prison when you first entered there? What was it? What you expected?
I don't think it was what I expected because I expected what I'd seen on TV, and it was a lot different. There was a lot of, there's two sides to it. What you see on TV, there's the uh, glamorizing the gangs or just the different cliques, or there was the uh, just the hard nose. I guess it's perspective. Whoever what you see on TV, the director wants to focus on the security side or what have you. Real prison. It was nothing like I expected or what I had seen. It was just it was its own beast. It was just something that I
Yeah.
don't think I was prepared for, uh, but I did embrace the realities of where I was pretty quick.
Did you have to, or you obviously had to embrace in some way prison culture itself?
So I spent 2 years in the county jail. So before I went through the trial process, and it was 2 years before I was actually convicted and sent to prison. During that time, I, uh, I discovered something that was kind of planted many years ago, and so I leaned kind of heavily on that, along with just being as I'm trying to identify who I am, because it was pretty quick that I wanted to, the goal is to get back to family, to my mother, to my kids, and
Yeah.
such. So I realized, okay, change has to happen. So I learned that pretty quick, and so I leaned heavily into specific things, and that's what became the catalyst of who I am today.
So okay, did that mean that you were sort of steering clear of certain people that you just thought would be more trouble for you? Is that something you were looking to get out kind of early, it sounds like to me. You were just sort of thinking forward.
Well, I was, it wasn't so much of trying to get out early. It was just, I wanted to, they can deny your parole if you're not ready or as they deem you to be ready or fit to
Yeah.
be back into society. So I wanted to make sure I did my due diligence to make sure that I was in a good space. And it was something that I leaned into pretty early. It was something that I recognized. I recognize the the importance of recognizing that there's a problem here, and then so when you recognize there is a problem, when you can accept that, then you
Yeah.
can find the solution, and then from when you find that solution, then you execute. So then I was already going through these three phases pretty early on.
So what was the spark or the pain point, I guess you'd say, that caused you to realize that, I can't be that old me that I used to be anymore. I need to change my life. In other words, if I'm going to get out at some point, I can't go out as the person that came in.
Yeah.
So obviously you made some decisions. So how did that come about?
So again, that when in that recognition phase,
Yeah.
recognizing that I was a selfish person, recognizing that I was not a good fiance or a good father or a good son. So recognizing those things is what led me to how do I become better? What do I do? What do I need to do to become a better person? And and do I follow what I see? Do I follow these? cliques that are in the county jail, or do I say I'm going to go against the flow and recognize that I can't be like everyone else and just be me?
Yeah.
And so that was the determining factors there.
Yeah. But what was it that you had to do some internal looks? You had to look
Yeah.
inside. You had to see something. What was that like when you start thinking about maybe you weren't the best dad or maybe you weren't the best friend or whatever? How did that start to happen?
So I think the in the beginnings, it was obviously I see a lot of people, and I did the same thing. I was a what you notice pretty quick is that when people are in a space where they're afraid or don't know what the outcome could be, they lean into something. And like everyone else, I kind of leaned on the Bible. There was Bibles, and so I really started to pray. And these are the foundations of who I am. These are the things that my grandmother and my mother really instilled in me as a kid, but I got away from as a preteen, teen, and young adult, and even an adult. You just say, I'm going to do my own thing and live my own life. We look forward to becoming 18 years old so we can say that, hey, I'm an adult, I'm grown, I can do my own thing, and I don't have to go to church or I don't have to do these things. Well, and that's kind of what I did. And so I got back to those roots, and it was just a really a big prayer to God, and then and a commitment to change in that prayer, and wanting Him to kind of to navigate my life and turn that over to Him at that point.
Yeah. What was that like? I mean, changing your character kind of like in front of people, it sounds like. Did
It
you get
was
any pushback from people going, "Hey, what are you doing?" or "Why are you doing this?" or
well
any
something
pushback?
something I noticed pretty quick in the county jail was that there was nothing I'd seen in other units that they had like Bible studies, but I noticed in my unit there was no Bible study. So um, I seen guys that were reading the Bible by themselves. So I just said, hey, why don't we get together and just read?
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I was doing. I just said, let's read, and we can go from there. And then we sent off for different materials, and we started reading from those and devotionals, and reading from those devotionals and getting into the scripture, and really leaning into God, leaning on God for
Yeah.
understanding and interpretation of what we're reading, because it's not
Yeah.
again, the Bible is easy to read for everybody, but it's not something that you understand until you have that relationship. So and I discovering those things along the way was uh, pretty powerful as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from your own experience, like what character traits in you did you realize were going to be essential if you were going to face the parole board?
Well, I
What did
think
you have to come to yourself? You had to come to yourself with knowing you're going to be talking to some people that are probably going to doubt you right off the bat. And they're
correct.
going to question your motives and why are you even here? And
Yeah.
did we release you? Are you going to be safe? I mean, all of those things.
Yeah.
What character traits did you realize you needed to develop?
So I think I just wanted a when I talked to God, I literally when in that prayer, once I got to into that unit in my own cell, I just stripped down everything and said, just rebuild. I'm leaning on you for this rebuilding. And so there was a lot of things. There was the anger. There was a lot of frustration. I even had frustration being frustrated in the prayers, because I was frustrated that these things were happening, and I allowed myself to get so far away from Him. But I think the biggest thing that sticks out is that I know I needed to the trait that I never had, that I realized was such a big deal, is the things you do when nobody's watching. Integrity. That was the
Yeah.
biggest thing for me. That was the transforming part for me. Learning about integrity, understanding what that meant, and
And what
just
does that
being
mean?
well. It's the integrity is obviously, to me, it's a the things you do when no one's looking, or when you think no one's watching, and the
Yeah.
principle to to be there for people when you say, and be a man of your word or a woman of your word, and be committed to that change. So that's what it means to me.
So when you got in front of the parole board, how did that
Mhm.
go?
So it was a so I it went really well. I know that along the way, as I navigated through prison, there was a life change as far as, again, there was hiccups along the road. There was things that, there was the setbacks when I lost the stepfather who was a part of my life at, various points in my life. So that was a setback for me. But to be able to going to the board, I'd done a lot of work in my life, and I knew that it wasn't for the board. I just knew with confidence that I'm ready. I knew that. I knew that when I looked at everything, I had written down a lot of things as far as like the things that I feel like are that I knew that would be applicable to back into society. And so just being there for people and truly genuinely loving people, I knew that, and I had done it for so long, and I had done these things consistently and being there. I started an exercise program that I think that's one of the most things that I was most proud of, the exercise program that I was able to implement in the prison, and working with people. I was in that first wave of people in the hospice. So those were huge moments for me in my time in prison. But to watch people who were borderline diabetics who to now are not diabetics, to watch people who were losing 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds, being a part of this class, it was very rewarding, but it's also imparting something in them. It's funny is along the way, there was people that knew who I was as a Christian man, but they were like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to talk to you about that. Let's just talk. And I was okay with that. But even in the exercise program, the only music I played was Christian music. I still got it in, and I watched the guys. They knew the words to songs, and it just, I never acknowledged it. I just smiled. It was just one of those things. So when I was going to the board, I recognized, I felt pretty, it wasn't a cockiness, it was just a confidence. And I believe God really placed that on my heart that you're ready, it's that time. And so I went there pretty confident. Obviously, getting there, there's all these nerves, your palms start sweating, and you're in front of these people who are determining if you're going to stay here or if you're going to go home. So that's kind of how it went.
How many times did you have to appear before
Just
the board?
once, one time,
One and done.
one and done.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a little bit, that's not actually normal in a lot of cases that we've heard about.
Not with that time. It's not something that you see every day, and it's something that uh, I just felt. I felt pretty confidently that this was my time. When you're doing something and you feel like I'm at the I need to start showing people. Those things were just happening. I wasn't in control of those things. I just started showing. I recognized. I went to the board in 2019, March of 2019, and so I noticed in 2018, like in a year earlier, that I started showing people like my job at work, and I would start showing people. I started asking people, "Hey, do you want to lead today the exercise class?" These type of things. And I asked for more people in the hospice program if we can get more people. So along these lines, and it was never anything that I was consciously doing. It was just something that was happening. I look back now and recognize it, but at the moment when I was in it, I didn't know what was going on. I just was just going with what I felt at that moment.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
get a parole date, and how did that feel? And what happened between you've been given a date and the day you got out? What was life like in prison at that point?
So it was I March of 2019 is when I went to the board, and a week later I found out my results. I got my board. So leading up to getting those results, it's just the anxiety is just incredible. And as much as I was praying about it and trying to not take this back from God, but let Him work, it just kept popping right back up every time, over and over and over again. I did this thousands of times every single day. And so
Wow.
but I realized, okay, once I get the results, all of this is going to go away. And so it was a Wednesday when I found out my results the following week. And once I got the results, that one anxiety became 20, just like that. Where am I going to go? Where am I going to sleep? Where am I going to work? So all of these anxieties it just became this beast of a thing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, okay, the day you walk out, what's that like? Any
Uh,
worse, or is it like a relief, or
no, it's almost like an out of body experience. This is what I called home for 2 decades. This
yeah.
place behind these gates, and to be walking out of that front gate, promising I'll never return, and looking back at that gate and saying I'm never going to return here again. It was something that uh, it was a relief, but it was also the unknown still. I didn't know a lot of things. So it was I still had those anxieties.
Yeah. So, okay, let's kind of just jump forward a little bit. Now, tell us about how you came to create Reconnect 180. How did it start and where?
So Reconnect 180, if you, so I was there, I got home on June 26th of 2019.
Okay.
And when I came home, I we got out of the van. We went in to see our parole officers. They gave me my stipulations and rules that I have to follow and abide by. And then I go out, and you realize, like, you have this box with all your possessions, and you're just looking around like, what next? And
Yeah.
so then you're trying to figure out, how do you get to this hotel or this motel I'm going to? And there's no one to direct you. No one's there. They don't say anything. You see your parole officer, and they say, "Well, good luck to you," and and
Wow.
just stay out of trouble and good luck to you. And this is what I heard after 20 years incarcerated: was, these are your stipulations. This is when we need to check in. This is what you need to pay us. Good luck to you, and off you go. And so it was a broken thing from the gate. And so I recognized the brokenness of it, how broken it was. And I just, again, caring about people, all I could think about was, next week there's going to be another van. And so along the way, as I'm finding these places and walking around town, I'm writing down addresses, and I'm trying to gather information with a pen and paper. And so so as I knew that July 3rd there would be another van that would be dropping people off, and I was ready. I wrote down all these addresses that I was going to along the way,
Okay.
and then I made copies of it at one of the um, FedEx stores, and I had like 15 copies, and I that's what I did. I stood out there then July 3rd, and I passed out these things to the guys that were returning. These are the places you need to go to. This is how you get here. There's a
Wow.
bus. The bus station's right here. You need to make sure you're doing this. So
Wow.
I had started a job in the dry cleaning business, but they allowed me to leave on Wednesdays, on Wednesday, and from then on Wednesdays, to go make sure I received the guys that were coming home. So this is what I did for the next 5 years. Every
Uh-huh.
week it got a little better. Obviously, I started accumulating things. I got a laptop. I was able to get a printer and print things off a little more professional. And then I realized that what I'm doing and the connections that I'm making with the community, this can be something that is an organization. So I decided to put in and file for my 501(c)(3), and that is the birth of Reconnect 180.
And how did you get funds?
So currently, it's private donors, and there's um, it's always and again, I'm applying for the federal grants. There's nothing that's hit yet, but it's also fairly new. I'm working in this first year of Reconnect being uh, operational. It's always been so. My goal has been the 90/90 program. Reconnect 180 is the name of the organization. The 90/90 program is what I deem this space for getting into the prison and being able to receive people before they're ready to leave, and then meeting them again, and they recognize the familiar face, and then being able to help them out as they leave prison.
So, like 90 days before release and then 90 days after release. Is that what the 90/90 means?
90/90 program is 90 days before, 90 days after, and
Why did you pick
that's
90? Why did you pick 90 days? Why that?
so. It started off with 90 days is what you go to the
Yeah.
parole board 90 days before your parole eligibility date. So I
Okay.
picked that date. I picked the 3 months before, and then and then it just and I recognized in it that when you come home, it takes about when you when you're going through the kind of what I went through, it took about 3 months for me to really say to exhale at the end of the day, and to go, oh, okay, we're
Yeah.
good, but there's some normalcy here. We're not completely good. We're not there yet, but I feel
Yeah.
confident and good about where I'm at right this moment.
Yeah.
So that's where the 90-90, and it just worked out. Someone pointed out to me as I started out that the 90 plus 90 is 180, and I didn't really think about the Reconnect 180 and 90-90. So I was like, wow.
Oh, that's what you had in mind.
No, it wasn't what I had in mind. Just worked out that way. It was a great thing for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. But what's the
Thank you.
ultimate goal of your program for those people that are?
So my goal is to, so right now we're in, we just got approved for the pilot program at Northern Nevada Correctional Center. And so that's where
Wow.
I'll start.
Congratulations.
And thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'll start my volunteer training on the 14th, which is so ironic. I think if you recall back to when I said I left prison and I vowed
Yeah.
I would never return. Well,
Yeah.
God had other plans. Because here I go. So I've
You
been
did
back several.
return.
Yes, I've gone back several times, and I remember the first time I'd gone. I got in the parking lot and I got to the gatehouse, where the gate is, and that gate opened up, and my legs didn't. They just locked. I could not move,
Really?
and I got super nauseous, and I just didn't. And I couldn't do anything. And I had two people I was walking with. They're like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, I can't move. I just can't
Wow.
move." And so I was able to breathe through that and just like, okay, you're going with this is a purpose. You're going to leave. You're going to be able to leave this time again. You're going to come in and visit and leave. And I
Yeah.
got through that, and so I've come back several times throughout the time. But so the vision is obviously to get through this pilot program to really impart what we bring to the table as far as Reconnect in our partners along the way, and then to meet them again in a van at parole and probation. And so there's not that space with people with their boxes wondering where this is or where that is, but to be
Yeah.
able to scoop them up, take them, have that first meal, be able to navigate through places, get them
Yeah.
in their spaces where they live. And again, I'll go through this 12 weeks, and then we'll be reevaluated. And from there, we look to grow. We look to grow in down south. I've been making a lot of connections down south, so I've already got a head start because a lot of people down south have got wind of what we're doing in the program, and so I've been getting a lot of texts from down south. So it's important to me, and it's no matter what. Even though I have it planned out and written down that I will go through Northern Nevada Correctional Center first, and then I'll go to the women's prison down south, and then to the other men's prison down south. Well, when people call, I'm not going to say, no, it's not your time. You got to wait 12 weeks. I got to, these are people that are in need and that don't have anything. Currently, there's an issue with the NDOC. Well, parole and probation has deemed that there's only one approved place to live. So if a person is leaving prison and they don't have a family or have an existing home of their own,
Yeah.
they want to go to Las Vegas, they can't. They have to come to Northern Nevada to this motel that's attached to a strip club, and they have to go there first. And then they have to be there for about 6 months. They have to be in Northern Nevada for about 6 months, and then they can reapply to go down south. So I've been working pretty diligently trying to find something down south and having meetings with city managers or deputy city managers and then other people who have these halfway houses, trying to navigate and figure out how do we do this? How can we make this happen? And to make it to where people can come home, because part of a successful reentry is a support system, and if your
Yeah.
support system is 420 miles away, then that's a problem. That's a tough one to overcome.
Yeah.
And you're in real time, you're here, and they're not here to hug you or to say to come on, keep going, you got this. They're down south, and that's a
Yeah.
problem to me. And so that's a broken part of it that we're trying to work on as well.
When you go in for that 90-day, we're going into the prison there for that 90-day portion of the program.
Yes.
How much of the program is it about the mindset or the heart set or whatever you want to call it of the individual who's waiting, knowing what you went through? How do you help other people navigate the mindset of I got a date, and that's scary. How do you
Yeah.
help?
So, and that's the biggest part for me is to that was my big push to get into prison was because I feel like we need to speak to that anxiety immediately. Let them
Mm,
know that, hey, these are
yep,
what those things you're feeling right now. I get
yep,
it. I've been there. I
yep.
remember this very well. And so therefore it's there's a guy that's coming in with me. He's co-facilitator. He was incarcerated for 29 years. So he understands also firsthand. And where he's working, I have a partnership with him, an MOU with his organization, and we're going into this, and we're going to be able to speak to those things, and we have a curriculum built around a lot of different things, and we'll be able to address every single thing that is an anxiety for them. Along with that, I have people from various agencies, like from Department of Motor Vehicle. I was able to get Department of Motor Vehicle right as it stood when I came home. I went to DMV and I went to set up an appointment, and they said, "Okay, we got you an appointment, and you have it's 6 weeks out," and that was the norm, 4 to 6 weeks. So you're telling someone who has prepaid to a motel, and that's all the money they had, that they have 4 to 6 weeks before they can get an ID, to get a bank account, to get a job, a legitimate job, while they have 2 weeks in a motel. I mean, is there? I'm not sure. Maybe my math's broken, but there's not a lot of success there. It's broken.
No.
So I was able to get with. I was able to talk to the governor here in our state through legislative hearings, and I asked him if he could do something about this. He says, "There's nothing I can do outside of legislation." So I had another idea. I said, well, if I was able to speak to someone, one of the heads of Department of Motor Vehicles, and I said that you agree that this is a problem that should be fixed, would you co-sign
Mm,
that? And he said, yes. So I was
mm,
on navigating. I was able to find the director of Department of Motor Vehicles, sent him an email, and I mentioned the governor in it. And 3 days later, the supervisor from Department of Motor Vehicles called me and said, "Hey, when can we set up a meeting next week?" And so
mm.
we were able to get that change from 4 weeks to when someone gets out of incarceration, they have 48 hours to get their ID. So now we were
Well, good
able
for
to
you.
get that done. So again, it's the biggest thing for me is to step backwards to while I was incarcerated. I was in '99. In 2008, I left one facility and went to another, and in that is when I discovered that I wanted change. I felt like I was in this space of just stagnant
Mm,
and just doing the same things and just kind of existing. And so I left Lovelock and went over to Northern Nevada Correctional Center. And with that, I was able to get employed with the prison industries as a clerk, and I was able to reevaluate my life. And so I took a challenge for myself um, to want to grow and to challenge myself to change my this existence into what I see as purpose. I see as purpose as something as the desires of your heart, where the desires of your heart and the will of God meet. And that's your purpose in life. So I knew that, and even the desires of my heart, that's from God, so that I understand that but it is the desire for wanting to help people. So that was my everything. So I felt like this was my purpose to help people. I knew that. I didn't know in what capacity or what it would look like until I left. But
mm.
and so I started writing as well from 2008 until 2019. I wrote in journals every single day. I journaled every day for those 11 years, and just paid attention to people and was able to get there to be there. People there was a population that didn't really I couldn't talk to. That was people who had addictions, drug addiction or alcoholism, because the first thing they would ask is, Webb, have you ever had alcohol issues or drug issues? And when I said no, they were like, oh yeah. So how I was able to combat that was I just signed up for the AANA classes. As I was in there with them, and I was able to speak with them and encourage them, and then when we came out, I found them to want to speak to me more. So just being creative with how I can approach people. I didn't want to have anyone leave anyone out, and I was able to cross a lot of boundaries. A lot of different cliques and a lot of different, as they call them, cars in prison. That's
Yeah.
the people you hang out with, and being able to walk up to any nationality and to walk on pagan grounds, to walk on the native grounds, and to talk to people,
Yeah.
just to genuinely talk about what they're going through, or what helping them with
Mm,
their letters for the board, or or
Yeah.
packages for the board or what have you. So
Yeah.
it just became my life, and this is where I discovered purpose in
Yeah.
understanding what my purpose is.
So you have all these classes. I mean, you have issues obviously that are really different with each and every individual. I mean, you can obviously you have like things like worthlessness or self-isolation or substance abuse or anger issues or whatever the issues are. Do you have classes for each and every issue, or how does that work?
So I can tell you the over the course of the 12 weeks, the first is orientation and reentry mindset. Week two is identification and documentation. Then the next week is parole, structure, and accountability. The next is housing and stability. The next is employment readiness and mindset. The next is financial literacy and survival money skills. The week seven is mental health, trauma, and emotional awareness. Week eight will be substance abuse, relapse prevention. Week nine will be relationships, family, and boundaries. Week 10 will be communication and conflict resolution. Week 11 will be time management and daily living skills. And week 12 will be reentry blueprint and personal commitments. So over the course of those 12 weeks, I will have, along with that, it's not just me and my David, my co-facilitator. We have, when I started Reconnect 180, I knew one thing that was the would be you think about what's the greatest thing you can do for someone, and to me it's mental health. I feel like that's the broken part. That's the part where we as men, as you told, when there was my stepfather in our lives, he always told me, like, I would cry, I was 10 years old crying. He's like, stop crying, you're a man, you men up, men don't cry. So as men, we hear that all the time and we believe that, and so we don't talk about our feelings, or we feel like we don't have that emotion. And
Yeah.
so I challenge people all the time, and I will challenge the men to be able to speak to someone, to get that off of you. In prison, what we have as the psychologist will come to when someone has an issue, they just had a death in their family. They'll come to their door, tap on their door, and say, "Hey, I'm going to come out and talk to me." They'll go out for about 10 minutes, talk to them, and they're getting a gauge of, does this person need medication or is he going to be okay? That's all they're doing. Then they send them back to their cell. And it's all of us, the population, who goes to and rallies around these people and to offer them condolences and to support. And so that's broken. And so that person, they're left with, I can't cry, I'm in prison. And they go in the shower and cry. That's where all the men do their crying, is in the shower. You show emotion in the shower. And so I want people to understand it's okay. And there's people here. So this is where a part of the board, I wanted to have, so I have three people who are social workers. And that's part of, that was my thinking, was get them on board and have an understanding. And they'll come in with me when we get to mental health, trauma, and emotional awareness. So the course is going to be 90 minutes. We're going to talk for an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. And then the guest from the Department of Motor Vehicles, from the housing, from the parole and probation, from social workers, they'll spend that last 30 minutes, 15 minutes to 30 minutes talking about it. I want it to be real life for the guys. I want them to not just hear what we're saying, but to also see a representative from these different agencies that's there in their face telling, this is what you should expect. And I think that de-escalates all of those. It extinguishes all of those, the fires of anxiety.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's
So
amazing work that you're doing. How do people in prison learn about you? I mean, and when do they apply, or do they apply, or what
so
qualifications do you require, and that sort of stuff?
so they will. I work with the reentry coordinator, so I work heavily with her. But also, honestly, I think at every prison in Nevada, I'm getting texts from different individuals, men, women, at all of the prisons in Nevada. So they're hearing about it. I haven't even put a poster up. I haven't, I have flyers that are going to be going up in the units next week about with the class coming, as far as the course coming to the NNCC, but it hasn't even hit yet. And I've been, for the last 4 or 5 months, I've been answering a lot of different emails, and again, I can do none of this without the partnerships I have. I have phenomenal partnerships with people. I have people that have halfway houses. There's organizations. I have this organization, and I didn't want to put it into this place of of a religious thing because I wanted to receive everybody. I want everybody to be a part of it. But I'm a man of God. I'm a Christian, and that's who I am. That's my foundation. But I also they hear it and know it in who I am and what I represent, and that back to that integrity. But
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to speak to people. So I have a lot of friends along the way. I have a lot of partnerships along the way that are just excited. They can't wait till we're in to really receive people and to make a difference and to change Nevada's a little bit, the percentage of recidivism in Nevada is a little bit smaller than the national average. But I think we can always get that double digit to single digit. So that's my goal.
Yeah.
And it's a goal of us. And as we continue to grow, we'll go down south. And from down south, I'm already working with and talking to people in other states. I have a meeting with someone in Michigan coming up pretty quick, just to talk about what we do. On LinkedIn, people see me and they say, "Hey, how do we do this? How can we get you here?" And I'm like, "Well, I got to slow that part. I need to still get my foot in the door here, but we're on our way." And when we're on our way, as we continue to grow, I believe more people. It's just I spend a lot of time in community, and I want people to know who we are and what someone who was incarcerated looks like. So I introduce myself and talk to them, and I answer any questions they have, and it changes what they see as an incarcerated person because if people think about it without even think, our society is built on law and order. So that's what they believe is like, this is what it is, and you're going to be this horrible person when you leave prison. It could be that way if we don't do anything about it. That's what we get, and we can continue to hike that recidivism rate up, or we can do something about it. So I challenge people in the community to do something about it, to do just a little bit. It doesn't take much. Volunteer here, donate here. Again, being a 501c3, it's all built on donations, and so that's a big deal. It's a humongous deal. And I didn't come on here to pitch that, but it's a reality. It is a reality that these are things that are the curriculums and these things aren't free. And so it is a space where I feel like the community should know. And as I go along and as I go to other states, the same thing applies. Communities need to be aware, and we need to make have a good effort to not give people knowledge about exactly what it looks like. And it's not just this gruesome place where these guys are just looking to an opportunity to return to prison or to do these robberies or go back to drugs. But genuinely, I really believe in my heart that every man or every woman in prison, if we can attack that first month, and so that's something else I'm going to be working on is that first month of when they're there and to address things immediately. Because again, if you allow a person to get in with clicks and to do these things and to meet up with people who they knew on the streets that were doing horrible things, they can talk about horrible things and they can do horrible things or plot how not to get caught the next time. Or we can do something about it, or we can get them in classes and say, hey, these are the things, this is how you change that dynamic, and this is how you change the way of thinking. We are created beings, and we can do better than our worst moments. We can always do better. And I believe in people. I genuinely believe people can always be better. It's just a matter of showing them the love. And it doesn't mean that you have to go and hug everybody, but showing them love by listening. That was another thing that I learned, is how to listen, because that was never something I never wanted to hear people when I was younger, but learning to listen to people and to respond to them with care and concern, and that you care about them is huge. It goes a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the very fact that you put yourself out there is the reason that we have you here tonight. Because one of our people here saw you and said, "Oh my gosh, you got to interview this guy. Got to get the word out." So we did,
Steve.
and here you are.
Yes.
Yeah. So you
awesome.
talk a little bit about, well, you probably talk a lot about rewriting this story. What is that? What's that?
So, and I know it sounds funny, like you can rewrite, but for someone who's incarcerated, rewriting your story, it doesn't mean pretending prison never happened. It's like, it means the prison chapter is no longer the final chapter, is what it means. That you can become, and your story can be led by growth and by purpose. And that's what it means. It's not like I'm going to rewrite history. No, it's just moving forward from that.
So is that something that people are actually writing about, like journaling, like you did, or is that just something they're thinking about?
No, it's something thought. And again, when I get into the prison, so I have lots of friends that are still there. And I think every person that I talked to who was a friend of mine that I knew while I was incarcerated, they all journal. I mean, because
Mm.
it's a thing of like following in the steps of Webb, for success kind of thing. And it's, it's hilarious to me, but if it works, then so be it. Then do what
Yeah.
do what works for you. If it works for you, by all means. I think that with you not being able to have a therapist and not being able to have someone that you can really speak to, and I didn't feel like I did, but
Yeah.
I was able to write about it. I wrote so over the course of 11 years, I wrote in 133 of those little journals, front and back. And so I was
That's a
able
lot
to,
of paper.
it is a lot of paper, and I spent a lot of money on buying those things. But I was buying them by the case. They weren't selling them. There wasn't a lot of people buying them, so I'd just buy a case of them. They were like $1. So I was buying those up, and when I discovered, I've always loved English and I've always loved literature, and so I didn't realize I loved writing so much. And I've been writing a lot lately because I've been working on some different curriculums as well. But
Yeah.
it's been it was just so therapeutic to be able to write down what I was feeling that day. And it's hilarious now to go back and see how I felt on July 2nd of 2009. What was going on that day. So it's pretty neat to be able to do so. And I think along the lines, somewhere down the lines, there will be a book. Just it's not that time yet, but it will be.
Mm. A little while back, you were talking about the idea of purpose, and many of the people that we've interviewed here that spent time in prison also discovered their purpose in prison. So
Yeah,
when they left their old personality behind, is kind of the way I just find it.
yeah.
The purpose started to emerge, and it seems that their old character traits have hidden that purpose from them. And I just wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on how a person finds their purpose?
Yeah, that's very true, and I think it's something that when I was saying earlier about tapping into people immediately, so they backload the at least in Nevada Department of Corrections, they backload. They look at programming as something that you do 18 months before you go to the board, and and I say no, you front load. You come when the person comes in. That's when you have their attention. That's when you can show that support and really change hearts and change minds. That's the goal. A person that comes into prison, they probably, you can be pretty confident that they probably weren't doing the right things. And you can also, and that goes a long way for a lot of things. As a person who was a Christian incarcerated, they probably didn't have a relationship with Jesus Christ. And so, and it goes on and on. There's a lot of things that were not. In order for you to be there, there was a lot of I'm not. And so therefore you change that to I can be. And so, and you need to have that part of it reinforced in people from the correctional officers to, your people that you're incarcerated with you to to things that are posted on the bulletin board to programs in general. We have to program. We have to change that dynamic in the beginning. And that what you said as far as finding purpose, you're going to find you open that door to finding purpose. And you hope along the way that there's classes and courses that come into finding that purpose. What is your purpose in life? Um,
Yeah.
I'm very thankful. I'm extremely thankful that I was able to be in this vulnerable place and not put up this hard shell
Mhm.
and say I'm not going to, but said I want change and I want to be different and I want to be there and I want to get back to my family. And so
Yeah.
to be able to be in that space and be vulnerable, that was the change. That's where change happens. So and men have to feel comfortable with that. They have to feel like it's not just me. That something I looked at when I was in classes all the time. There would be you have an instructor and they say, does anyone have a question? And no one goes and, everyone just looks around and looking and see if someone else is going to do. And then once one person does, then you get two people, then you have 10 people, then so it's that kind of thing, snowball effect. And so just making sure that people are comfortable where they are and understand that it's okay to speak. And as a man, honestly, I discovered that I've never been a man until I discovered that this integrity and that and to be vulnerable and to understand it's important to talk about. And my talking was spent more in my journals than anywhere else because there really wasn't anyone to talk about. If I talked to the psychologist there, he'd be like, "Hey, I'm going to write you a prescription. You got a lot of issues, you know." So so it was in my journal I was doing so, and that's where I was finding that. But in the journals I always said I want to go and see a therapist. And I did. I spent 3.5 years of therapy, seeing a therapist. And it's just, and I encourage people now, people who've never been to prison, it's good to talk. You know, it's good to have there's no book that tells you how to be a good father, a good husband, a good human. And it's something that I think we can unload things and be able to feel good about and to be those and have those things. So I encourage everybody to jump, you know, if you can, if it's something that's available to you, is something that, and you're being your true authentic self and you're just putting it out there, the rewards from doing so is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. This has been terrific, and I'm going to turn this over to my partner Gabriel, who's the question answer guy, mostly
Okay.
question guy. So thank you, Joaquin.
Of
That was
course.
beautiful. Very, very
Thank you.
good interview.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if anybody has a question for Joaquin, is it Joaquin? Is that, am I pronouncing that
Yeah.
correctly?
It's just spelled weird. My mom got creative with my spelling. It is Joaquin.
Okay,
Yes.
Joaquin. Nice.
Yes.
So Ted,
Joaquin, there are two questions. One is
Sure.
about the curriculum, and the other is about the communication. The fact that you were communicating with the governor, you were communicating with the head of the Department of Motor
Motor
Vehicles.
vehicle. Yes.
That a lot of guys who come out of prison don't get to talk to the governor, and that can you tell us a little bit about that and about the a little more about your curriculum? Is it available for people to see the curriculum?
So the first part is the governor, and I was very, I it was right place, right time. I didn't have an office, so I would go to a specific coffee house downtown Carson City, and it just happened during legislative hearings. The governor, that was the one he frequented, so it worked out that he was a politician. He was shaking hands, kissing babies, kind of thing, and he just happened to see me, and he sparked a conversation, and so he shook my hand, and I met, and introduced myself, and from there it started. But also, I would do the public comments and testifying at legislative hearings as well. So he thought I looked familiar, and I didn't never met him there, but we met there, and in that moment, the opportunity presented itself for me to talk to him about something that is beneficial for the people who are returning. So I don't think there's a need for people to. You said everyone can't, and I agree. They maybe not everyone can speak to the governor all at once, but the speaking to him was about them. It was about everything to do with the people that are coming home. So that was the intent completely, was about the people returning home. And as far as a curriculum, it'll the I just finished making this curriculum ready for, it's an app now. And so it'll be on the tablets, but it'll be something that'll be available via tablet. And if that answers your question.
Does that mean that available on tablets like Edivo, or like available
Yes.
that people online I can look at it here in Washington
Oh,
D.C.?
no, but I can also, it's something that I don't have it to where it's available in Washington D.C. just yet, but it is something that I can send a copy of what it looks like, the curriculum, to you via email. That's something that I could do, definitely.
Thank you.
Of course. If you don't mind sharing your email, I would be more than happy to do so.
I will do that right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Ted.
Oh, excuse me. Shit.
Oh yeah.
I just wanted to say hi and definitely thank you for sharing. I really can relate to a lot of things that you said. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you, Troy.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I was going to say Ted himself is kind of also an educator and has brought in some really interesting programming into some of Washington D.C. jails and was a speaker at our conference last year. So I think that's a
Okay.
good connection to make there.
Awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. I've got a question, Joaquin. So in your program, 90 to 90, that idea of getting to know somebody ahead of time, showing up with a van, and just being able to kind of help transport them to their assigned housing for that first night, hot meal. What kind of I guess, scale does that feel like to you? Is that like you got one van per facility per area, and that'll cover one person at a time, or a couple people, or is that
So, so right now, what we get on average is about right around 412 people, 15 people a year in Northern Nevada.
okay?
So then, and it's by week. So you have to like, you have weeks where you'll have 10 and then you'll have five. And then tomorrow we have vans on Wednesdays and Fridays, but tomorrow there's a holiday. So there's zero vans. So we had one on Wednesday, which five people came home, and then there's zero tomorrow. So it fluctuates, but along the way you have a van and that's, can fit 15, 16 people, then you're good. And so anyone coming to Northern Nevada will end up at Northern Nevada Correctional Center. And anyone that's going to go to Southern Nevada, they're going to end up at Southern Desert Correctional Center. So between the two, and then the women's prison, it's the same thing. They end up, if they go south or north, they end up at Northern Nevada Correctional Center or Southern Desert the week of their release. So they all come together in the van. So having the van here in down south, we should be good. And it's my prayer that we will need two vans. That'll be awesome. A bus, that'll be phenomenal. That means people are coming home. So that's the goal for sure.
Do people end up getting out typically on the same day of a week, like a Friday or something like that, or is it like spread out throughout the week?
No, people get out. Their dates are Wednesday and Friday. So if someone their parole eligibility is on a Tuesday, they're not going home till Wednesday. And if it's on Thursday, then they go home on Friday. But so that's how it works. And if their eligibility date's on a Friday or on a Saturday, then they have to, obviously they're all the way back down to Wednesday. So the following Wednesday. So that's how that works. So it's always going to be Wednesdays and Fridays.
And then have you run into the situation where you were maybe planning to pick them up on one of those days, and then they either move up or back on kind of when they actually get out? Like, I'm just kind of thinking about the logistics on that a little bit. Are you like in phone conversation with them at that point in time, or on the tablet, or how do you kind of manage that sort of semi chaotic transition period?
So again, I think I missed. You said if they were they were in prison and they didn't come. Is that what you asked?
Like if their actual release day kind of shifted either ahead or behind a little bit. I feel like we've just kind of run into a situation like that a few times where we had a sense maybe 3 months out, oh, your release date's going to be around here, and then it got changed somehow.
So that means that the person that can't happen if being released early can't happen. If your PED is a date, it can't happen before that date or around that, after. It is either going to be that date or it's going to be after.
Oh,
But before it never happens. That'll get someone fired for
okay.
before. But and then if there is there is the situations where it could happen if there was a overturning or if there was something of that nature, then of course that they say immediate release, they're going to leave immediately. If it's
Yeah.
even if it's on a Saturday, they're leaving. So and then you hope along the way. So communication is phone calls or text. I get both. They do get on. They jump on their tablets and or something's changed and they want to make sure. And so different scenarios, but to be in the prison is it's a huge deal. And again, it's being able to build those relationships with the guys. It just I feel pretty busy now, and staff is getting busy with calls and taking calls. But it's when I'm in there, I think it's going to change drastically, and I look forward to the change, and we're ready for the change more than anything. We're prepared for it. From the board members to the volunteers to the social workers, they're all chomping at the bit to get going and to get this pilot going and running, so we can get going with this. So it's exciting times for sure.
Awesome. And yeah, do they always have assigned housing at that point in time? Kind of, they always know, I know where I'm going to be that night.
Yes, and so they're if they don't have their own, like a mother or a sibling or a friend or family that has a house, and so the house has to be pre-approved for parole and probation before they come. So usually 2 weeks before they're actually released, they'll go through and make sure if they're in compliance, everyone's in compliance. If they don't have that, then they're going to a motel, and the motel, they pay for the first 2 weeks. They have to either they pay or their family pays for that first 2 weeks, and then from there, they're on their own. So you're hoping in 2 weeks that something happens, or if they have the finances, they like one success story as far as a release guy left last Friday. I knew him while I was incarcerated. I took him around. I spent a lot of time with him today, taking him around, shuttling him around town, and he was able to save up, $5,000 while he was incarcerated to be able to. So he paid for a month at the motel, and he has a great skill set working in prison industries as a certified welder. So he's going into. We have him set up for an interview on Monday with this company where he'll be welding, and it's I'm it makes me again. There's a lot of I sleep good and I go to bed, and when I lay down I sleep immediately. But there are things that keep me awake. There are things that keep me awake at night, and one of them is just ill prepared, or is someone not here. Now, people who expire their sentences and leave, they're another exception. So if they expire their sentence, and they can come out on a set. It could be any day of the week, at any time. Whatever their date is. If their date lies on a Sunday, they're going to be out Sunday. And unfortunately right now those are few and far between. It doesn't happen often, but right now they just drop them off at 7-Eleven in Carson City and say, "Hey, good luck to you." And then we get the calls, and there's a guy there's one of my partners. He has a halfway house. He's on this call right now, and he calls me sometimes, and he says like, "Hey, someone just came home. Someone's at 7-Eleven," and I know what that means. And he's on it, and he such a blessing to have him, because his staff is they can jump. They're in Carson City, so they're able to jump on that. So it's but we're looking to I sent an email to the warden last week, and he responded, "We're going to work on getting you a list of people as they get closer, because I want to be able to reach out to everybody, no matter who they are. The person that's expiring needs to be in the class just as much as the person who's going to be on parole. Everybody should be equipped with the resources that are out there for them. Everyone should know. We should not be dropping people off at a 7-Eleven. First of all, that's a scary scenario, because they're scared, because they're now around people again, and then the people are scared because they see someone in blue, that everyone knows what that is. You're in blue jeans and a t-shirt with a huge box in your hand. You're from prison, or you're homeless, and that's the same thing. They came from prison. They're homeless. They have nowhere to go, and so we need to change that dynamic. So that's another one that I've been working on, is trying to get that going. So we need to make sure that we don't miss anyone along the way, because those when you don't know about someone, or someone's in limbo. That's where I don't sleep at night, because I'm always thinking about how are they, or what. I've done it. I've been to I've left Carson City and went to Reno at 10:30 at night because someone had gotten home and they just didn't know where to go. And I've gotten out of bed to go find them and to make sure that secure a residence for them for the night and then work on the next day. So I've had those nights and I've had those days where, there's just so much anxiety for myself. I came home and you go to Walmart. Just as basic as that is. So again, 20 years incarcerated in a men's prison, 1,200 men, and predominantly men's staff. And then you go to Walmart and you're shopping around and you go down the toothpaste aisle and you only have one toothpaste that you've been using for 20 years. And then you have all these options. That anxiety, boom, immediately. That's a huge one. And then you get so I go with the one I knew, Aquafresh, put it in my basket. And as I'm leaving, you look at in front of you are two ladies with carts coming this way fast. And so you turn around and there's a lady right on you. So there's a space thing that you have when you're incarcerated. And now that space thing is now gone. And everybody's like right here. And it's ladies. So you're not around these women for all these years. So it's just like, and so I ended up just leaving my basket and I left. And so because it was just so overwhelming. And that's the kind of thing, the guy that I took around today, he said, "Hey man, I remember you telling the story about you at Walmart. And did you know what happened to me last week? I went to Walmart and it freaked me out. This lady bumped me with her cart and I was just like, I didn't know what to do. And so I almost left. I just went to the check stand and checked out. I had more things to get, but I just elected to do that another time because I was just freaked out. And so preparation for those type of scenarios, and then to be in that space where, I'm looking to, I do these bags for guys as they come home. I'll have these bags for guys that are going to the hotel or motels, and just to kind of get them through with I call it the little starter kit with hygiene, and then the plate, spoon, and fork, and pillowcases and things like that. And then if it's wintertime, beanies and gloves and things of that nature. But it's there's so much more that's needed. And I have, again, the greatest gift that I have with this organization is partnerships. There's so many people that I'm learning to actually really care. And it's pretty refreshing to see. It's pretty refreshing to see people that actually care. So it's great. It's a good thing.
Would you say that, and then Deb, we're going to go to your question in just one sec. Would you say that you're currently basically serving pretty much the whole state of Nevada, if there's like north and south, and you're kind of helping both? Or do you have a region that you would sort of say, if we were like, who should we put in touch with Joaquin, as far as a geographic region? Do you have a sense of like kind of the area you're currently serving on that front?
So it's obviously the major areas is Reno and Las Vegas, one north, one south. So those are where people are primarily going to. You'll get people that go to Fernley, which is a little more out, a little more rural, and so but they still come through Reno first. And so everyone goes through Reno parole probation and Las Vegas parole probation to get to their destination. So, and I have people, even though I'm here and I'm working on this pilot here, I have 3 people on my board that are down south that are just, again, chomping at the bit. Send us somebody, please. I dare you. We want to help. We want to be able to do these things. Unfortunately, if those people don't have something existing already established down there, they're going to come up here because there's no housing approved for them there. So they come here. So we're getting more people here. And, but yeah, I have people that are ready there. And I try to get there once a month to Las Vegas. And I always, and making sure that I, introducing myself, the same thing that I did there, I want to do there, just getting ready for the people, and I'm receiving people down south as well.
Nice. Well, thank you. Deb, let's go to you, and then Marilyn.
Thank you very much, Quentin. This has just been amazing. So my question is, okay, obviously you have support people and you said you have volunteers, but are you always the face that goes in, and are you the one that's, doing the presentations and so forth? Is it really, are you the biggest part of this?
So at this current time, it's me that's, I'm going to be going into the prison for the pilot. But after the pilot, so this guy that's going in co-facilitating, there's a reason why he's co-facilitating, because ultimately I want him to facilitate the course. And then there's other people along the way that I want to have my eye on to facilitate as well, that are part of the organization or volunteering with the organization. So, and they'll be doing as well, because obviously once we start and we're successful in Nevada, it's going to branch out, and we want to make sure that we're moving. So it takes being able to, and that's one of the curriculums, is the training for people to facilitate. That's something I'm working on right now as well, because I am looking into the future, and as things as people show more interest in other states. I have one person on the board he's all over. So we have this meeting with Michigan. He knows he's researched everything in Michigan as far as the Department of Corrections. And so he's done all this. So, and I'm looking over these notes and looking at this stuff. He kind of gives me a report of what's different from Nevada to Michigan. And so we know this. So going into the meeting, I'll know, and being able to speak to that and have, this app that I'm doing. It makes it relevant and I want the app to be relevant for every state. There's always differences in every state. There's something different. They're not all the same. So we have to make sure we are. And then again, the trainings for people that are doing these things. Someone into the New York area, they asked if we can come down, and this is back when I first started it. He was like, "Hey, when can you come down and train people to do this program?" And here, I was like, "Well, we're not ready. We're not ready yet, but I will."
Wow.
And he's someone I talk to once or twice every couple of weeks, and as we get closer, it's something that is happening. So it's exciting to me. Again, I never ever minimize or take for granted that people actually care, because sometimes in prison it didn't feel like that. Yeah, and I'll be the first to. It didn't feel like that. You don't feel that. You feel like everyone's going to treat you like the COs treat you, and a lot of times the COs didn't always treat you the greatest. You were just a number to them, and when they don't look at you as a human and a number, it helps them to lay down at night and to sleep, to understand like, oh, it was okay. And not everyone's that way. I've met some phenomenal people who were correctional officers, but I've met a lot of people who just treated me as a number, and it was unfortunate because you could have spoken into my life, and I just want people to get to that space, to be able to recognize like, hey, you as a CO have something to offer each individual that you encounter. You have a housing unit where you have 120 of the people who are incarcerated, and you're going to be with them for at least 1 year. Why would you not want to change lives and change hearts? Why would you not want to encourage people to get into programming if you're going to be around them? And it's not and how better if you can do that, how much safer are you making yourself and other staff members as well? So it's a win-win for me.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you.
Hey, Marilyn.
First, I wanted to thank you, Joaquin, for your wonderful organization that you're starting up. And I also I wanted to comment on, I'm totally impressed with your resourcefulness at finding all of these various organizations to connect with and so forth. I mean, as a volunteer chaplain in Reno, Nevada, I have been working on trying to find out what these resources are so that when some of the guys that I am corresponding with as a corresponding chaplain, I can let them know. And I can see I haven't been working hard enough, because you sound so resourceful, so committed, and so dedicated. I'm just totally impressed. So thank you.
We should connect, and then what I have is yours as a mi casa su casa. So I would be more than happy to share with you and the resources, and absolutely. And so I look forward to that. If you could, and also if you don't see, it's reconnect180.org is the website, and then you can send them that. And then my email is Joaquin@reconnect180.org. So my first name @reconnect180.org. And so that's how you can reach me directly. And so please reach out, and I would be more than happy to help you with those resources for sure. Again, and in Maryland, as a chaplain, I thank you for what you do. Bonnie, I don't remember her last name, but it was in Las Vegas, the chaplain. she was the encourager for me as I was doing the Bible study. She was the one who gave me all of the literature that to keep that Bible study going, to keep people coming back to it. So it was such an amazing thing. I have a special place in my heart for the chaplains who come in and to do that work. Um, it's but it's also, again, purpose, finding that, understanding that purpose. When you know what you're supposed to be doing and it's backed by God, it's there's a different confidence that you have, that you go into, and I go into things understanding, it's amazing as I just share my story and how day one looked for me when I was released, and then I also leave them with the possibilities of the person that, that recidivism, the people that can reoffend and how that can impact people. People don't believe, oh, it doesn't matter, it doesn't affect me. Well, it does. If someone is if they have 2 weeks at a motel, and then their 2 weeks is up and they're waiting at DMV for DMV to see them in 3 weeks, and they don't have a job, they don't have money, they have no source of income, they don't live there anymore. And they're walking down the street trying to figure out, they get hungry, and then they're at Chevron gas station, and so are you, and they decide to rob you that day, or to, something, an easy target. So it impacts everybody, because it does change lives. We can change hearts and minds in a positive, or people can go back to what they know. And so that's the important part. It's people that need to understand that these are real life scenarios that happen. You turn on the news, you see so many times people that were ex-felons and that are going back to prison. And I can guarantee if you talk to that person that went back, things were hard. They weren't able to connect with those resources or what have you. And these are the stories over and over and over again. So it's just something that we can do differently, and we can change that.
Right. Well, we all need to learn. Those of us on this call, on this video anyway, we all need to learn how to connect with these resources better, like you have, because we are striving to create angel teams or people to connect with fellas and gals when they're coming out of prison to support them. And
well, I'm looking for. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to say is that what you do is obviously a God thing, because the fact that you lean on God, it helps you to expand your vision and to just move forward. It's just, I think it's a beautiful thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yes.
All right. Yeah. Do we have any other questions for Joaquin?
Yeah, if I could chime in.
Yeah.
Hey,
Go ahead.
I'm really impressed with the amount of ground you've gained in a short amount of time. You talked about your van and picking people up. I'm going to make an assumption that van needs gasoline. So what are some of your needs for healthy growth? I'd imagine hands and feet, but what does healthy growth look like, and how does that play out?
So yes, the van needs gas for sure, and there's a lot of things that are, again, I lean on and trusting in God that He will provide a lot of things, and it's going to be through people, and it's just the connections and being able to speak. There's a lot of needs. There's obviously those day one things. They're not free. I spent, those bags I talked about that I do. So I was when I started, the bags became a thing for me. But I told you about June 26th, I left. July 3rd, I was right back. But also, it wasn't the July 3rd, but the following week is where I started the bag thing. And it was actually Ziplocs, because I couldn't afford bags. I just came home myself. So I had Ziplocs with small things like a soap and toothbrush and toothpaste and deodorant. And then it just grew to these Target bags or Ross bags, and to where I have a little more to offer people. But it came out of the pocket. I was a delivery driver at a dry cleaner, and I'm paycheck to paycheck. Pretty much, I was doing okay, but I was able to. But the biggest thing, the greatest thing for me was being able to purchase those bags and knowing that I had enough to supply and make sure people had those. And then over the course, obviously, it's not free. None of that stuff's free. And then the gas, yeah, there's a lot of expenditures along the way. And we hope that, maybe the grant will happen. We one of those, being a new organization, the grants are tough to crack. But once it gets cracked, but I truly believe that at the end of the day, again, it goes back to purpose, and God doesn't place something in front of you without an answer. So I lean heavily on that, and I trust that along the way. So, and along this way, as far as the van and the gas and all of these things, well, again, when that day one start, which is probably going to be August the 3rd or 4th, I have 12 weeks to get those things in line for that first wave of people and so I know that God will provide it through whoever it may be or through whatever grant it may be.
I did put your donation page in the chat for anybody who would like to kick Joaquin a little gas money for that van. I love that idea, by the way. To me, that is a real tangible thing you're doing. Susan, I see your hand is up.
Thank you.
Joaquin, this is Marshall Reddick. I'm head of an angel team in California, although we have 2 out of state. And I teamed up with Kay Cover, who's a chaplain, and I just find that the guys reach out sometimes to her and not me, and vice versa, that it's really valuable to have a woman, I think, involved with these teams. Also, I got the idea of having a group chat. So we have the group chat going out to all the returning citizens, and then all the individuals on our angel team that are involved in our church. And boy, that's worked out well. They support one another. When one has a problem, usually another one has a solution. And it's become a very close-knit family of people really all over the country. And I just wanted to share that with you. It's been really, really working out well.
That's awesome. I'd love to hear that.
Susan.
Thank you, Joaquin, so much. This is truly, truly inspiring. My question is, would like Ted, I would be so interested in being able to see your course. Would this course be of help to someone who's already been out for 6 years, but really has not found his way yet? And I'm wondering.
Absolutely. I think it would be beneficial. And the person that you speak of, whoever they may be, it would be amazing if they reached out also, if they were able to reach out email. I would love to connect with them. And just to be able to offer, again, as I go along and speak to various people, I'm learning in all these states. I'm making these connections as well. So if there's something that I know, I would be more than happy to help that along the way.
Wonderful. He's in Washington State, and I did put my email in the chat along with my question. It's in there. Do you see that, Gabriel?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will these be available, Gabriel, by chance after, or do I need to, because I'm trying to write these, I see the emails addresses are.
I'll copy the whole chat and I'll email it to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So, Joaquin, I'm thinking then to put this gentleman in touch with you by giving him your email.
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay, good.
Yes.
All I can do is suggest. I can't make somebody do something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you again. You're a true inspiration.
I appreciate that, Susan.
I've got another follow-up, and then we'll go to you, Ted. In terms of support in the community, besides kind of the nonprofit that you're working on, developing and growing, have you kind of explored connecting with your local faith-based organizations, churches, congregations? Do you find interest in that arena or willingness, or is it kind of, I'm curious to hear if you have any experience along those lines.
I haven't had experience along those lines until recently. I just started venturing into that, and kind of uh, there's a part of me that was like, because it's one of those spaces where I know that other organizations are leaning on, say, for example, Grace Community. That's one of the bigger churches here. And so when I know that there's a couple of them that are, I feel like I don't want to take from them, kind of thing. And so, but I have been venturing into, I've started talking to a couple of churches recently. So yeah, it's definitely a space I'm getting into.
Mm. It's definitely something we are thinking about as well as an organization, is
Yeah.
really encouraging congregations to consider the role that they can uniquely play to
Yeah.
be a connection with the
Yeah.
back to the community.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Ted, let's go to you.
One of the things that I've seen as a challenge in the ministry that I've been doing is unrealistic expectations before they come out. Um, Thinking about how to start a business, how to and I wonder if you have found things that have been helpful in getting um, a sense of perspective about what a person can do and um, how to help them become more realistic in first steps.
So it's funny you mentioned that. I had a guy not too long ago who came home and he said, uh, I'm going to be good. I'm going to get this grant and I'm going to be able to start my own business. And I and so I immediately thought, well, do you have an ID? Because he was it was a very cocky kind of approach, and like, no, I don't need anything. I got this. I said, do you have an ID to start your business? Like, well, no. I was like, okay, so where are you going to be living? And do you have money for your housing? He said, well, I can apply for the grant. Well, how are you going to get there to apply for that grant? So I just ask the real questions, and that's something I'll do. And while they're still incarcerated, is tell them, because you hear those thoughts. I heard people when I was incarcerated all the time talking about, well, there's a grant we can apply for. We can get this, and you get $5,000. I haven't seen anyone. I haven't seen anyone with that success ever. I've never tried it, but also I've never seen anyone who's been successful in that. And I'll convey that to guys. There's no success. Why are you? I mean, it's almost like, to me, like I'm going to go to California and go play lotto, and I'm thinking I'm going to win next Wednesday. It's almost the same thing. It's like, no, that's not reality. The reality is you have to pay rent, you have to get an ID, you have to get a job, and you have to be able to get a bus pass or around town. And until you have those things, because whoever you're going to apply for this grant with, they're going to ask you for a lot of things. They're going to ask you for ID and these things. You don't have that. How are you going to get there? So I give them real talks, but also I want to be able to speak to that before they even come home. Yeah,
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Pam, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, you were talking about perhaps reaching out to churches, and I thought, it'd be a lot easier to just reach out to all the interfaith organizations.
Yeah.
And those who are trying to help out as far as mental health or the homeless or all those, because this is such a bigger tent than an individual church, and it's just a way to just get out there faster. So
That's a good idea.
I mean, you made a list. You're a natural networker, okay? For you to make a list of the things that everybody needs, okay, when they get out, for you to do that, you just make a list of all the interfaith organizations and all those other organizations, and you'll just see it all expand, and I know you're going to do great.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
I
for what you're
appreciate
doing.
that. Thank you.
Great. Let's see. Do we have any other questions? Susan, you got another one? You're muted.
You're muted, Susan.
Sorry.
There we go.
I don't know how it works in Nevada, but in Washington, we have a Department of Correction Religious Advisory Board run by a chaplain, former chaplain, and he runs the whole thing. And he has regular meetings with all the various religious volunteers that come into the prison, of which I've been one. And I'm thinking, I wonder if that would be an avenue in Nevada to connect with, and Maryland would probably know about this. If you have a religious advisory board in Nevada, it seems like that would be a good way to get a hold of all of those chaplains as well.
We have a very strong interfaith community here in Reno, Nevada, but I don't know about this religious advisory board.
Be with the prison.
It's in the prison itself, yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I that occurs to me too is I don't think you're taking away from anybody if you're like, do you want to support this thing that we're doing? I would imagine it may be very complementary in a lot of ways, and if somebody is already supporting something along those lines, feels like, hey, do you want to be part of this?
Yes.
And
Yes.
I've gone ahead and working on adding your organization to our directory of resources that we are building.
Awesome.
Yeah, so definitely happy to have that. Let's see. Do we have any other questions, comments, additions for Joaquin tonight? We've gone probably a little bit over. David, did you have anything else? Or
I
is this
don't, except I just want to say, Joaquin, let's stay in touch. And I love your thinking about things and your follow through about things. You don't just think about them, you actually find a way to do them.
Yeah. Well, it's a pleasure for me. I mean, it's good to meet more people, like-minded people who really care about what people and the condition of those who are returning it's really great. And to see so many and to have you guys all interject. And please reach out anytime at the website. I'd be more than happy, or my email. Be more than happy to answer your questions, or maybe I'll see you in your states soon. That's the hope.
Yeah.
Come on down to San Diego.
Well, I'm from Southern California, and I love San Diego.
All right.
Absolutely.
God impelled this work.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks
Thank you.
again, everybody, for coming tonight. Thank you, Joaquin. And
course.
we will have a slightly edited version of this on the website soon. So thank you.
Dave.
Thank you all so much.
All right.